Before I left that basement that night, Daniel walked over to a locked cabinet positioned in the farthest corner of the room. Unlike everything else down there, that cabinet looked older, more personal. The wood showed signs of age. The edges were worn down. The handle had clearly been touched thousands of times over the years. Daniel paused before opening it. For the first time that night, I noticed a genuine emotion breaking through his calm appearance. It wasn't sadness, not exactly. It was something deeper, something tied to memories. Carefully, he unlocked the cabinet and pulled out a large binder, then another, and another. There were dozens of them, each one carefully labeled, each one filled with documents, photographs, letters, and notes. He placed one of the binders on the table. On the cover, there was only one name: Emily. The room suddenly felt even quieter. Daniel opened the binder. Inside were photographs documenting years of their life together. Trips, birthdays, ordinary afternoons. Moments that probably felt simple at the time, but later became priceless. I watched as he carefully turned each page. His expression softened with every photograph. Then he stopped at one specific image. Emily stood beside a hospital bed, smiling, holding the hand of an elderly woman. She volunteered all the time, Daniel said. I looked at the photograph. At hospitals? He nodded. Whenever she could. Another page, another photograph, another hospital, another patient, another smile, then another, and another. A pattern started to emerge. Emily had spent years helping people she barely knew, comforting strangers, visiting patients, supporting families during difficult moments, offering kindness without expecting anything in return. Daniel looked at the photograph. She believed no one should face suffering alone. The words lingered in the air, and suddenly, everything made sense. The sleepless nights, the messages, the support groups, the research, the people scattered around the world. It had all started with her. Daniel closed the binder, then turned to one of the monitors. After a few commands, a website appeared on the screen. I recognized the name immediately: the Emily Project. My eyes widened. I had heard of it before. Many people had. The organization had become surprisingly influential over the years. It connected volunteers with grieving families, offered support resources, funded assistance programs, helped patients face difficult medical situations. The organization had already touched countless lives. What does this have to do with Emily? Daniel smiled. Everything. I stared at him. Then it hit me. You created this. He nodded. The room suddenly felt smaller. For years, the entire neighborhood had wondered what Daniel did at night. Meanwhile, he had quietly built an organization helping people across multiple countries. No publicity, no recognition, no drawing attention to himself. He had transformed grief into purpose, pain into service, loss into something capable of helping other people. And almost no one around him knew. Daniel looked at the screen. When Emily died, I thought my life was over. His voice remained steady, but the emotion behind his words was impossible to ignore. There were mornings when I didn't want to get out of bed. There were nights when I thought I couldn't go on. I stayed silent. Some stories deserve to be heard without interruption. Daniel continued. Then one day I realized something. His eyes shifted toward a photograph beside the monitor. If I couldn't give her more years of life, he paused. Maybe I could give her impact. That sentence hit me harder than anything else he had said, because that was exactly what he had done. Emily's kindness had not ended. It had multiplied, expanded, reached places she had never visited, touched lives she had never known, all because one man refused to let love disappear along with loss. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The glow of the monitors lit up the room. Messages kept arriving. Notifications appeared. People looking for help. People offering help. people finding hope, an endless cycle of human connection. And suddenly the mystery of the office light being on no longer felt like a mystery. It felt beautiful. When I got ready to leave, Daniel walked me to the front door. Before stepping outside, I turned back to him. "Can I ask one last question?" He smiled. "Of course. Why didn't you ever tell anyone about this?" Daniel looked across the street, at the neighborhood, at the houses where people had spent years creating theories about him. Then he shrugged softly. "Because the work was never about me. Simple, honest, complete." The next morning, I went to work with a completely different perspective. The neighborhood looked the same. The houses hadn't changed. The streets were exactly as they had always been. But everything felt different, because I had learned something important. So often we create stories about people we barely know. We fill in the gaps with assumptions, rumors, speculation, conclusions based on incomplete information. And sometimes those conclusions couldn't be more wrong. In the months that followed, I got to know Daniel better. Not as a mystery, not as the strange neighbor who never slept, but as a friend. From time to time, he shared updates about the Emily Project. New programs, new volunteers, new lives impacted. The numbers were impressive, but it wasn't the statistics that impressed me most. It was the messages, the thank you letters, the stories of people who found support when they felt completely alone. Those stories explained everything. Then, one evening, nearly a year after our first conversation, something happened that I will never forget. The neighborhood organized a community gathering. Nothing unusual, just families coming together, children playing, neighbors talking, food spread across folding tables. The kind of event that happens in communities all over the world. At one point, they asked Daniel to say a few words. Reluctantly, he agreed. For the first time, many of our neighbors learned the truth. The whole truth. The room fell silent as he shared his story. Emily. The loss, the sleepless nights, the mission that was born afterward. Some people cried, others simply listened. Many were shocked, because they realized the same thing I had. For years, we thought we were watching Daniel, but we never truly saw him. That night, when the gathering ended, something extraordinary happened. The neighborhood changed. People began visiting Daniel more often. Conversations became more frequent. New friendships formed. The walls that grief had quietly built started to disappear. And for the first time in many years, Daniel no longer carried everything alone. Sometimes the greatest mystery isn't what people are hiding. Sometimes it's the story they never had the opportunity to tell. To this day, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I occasionally glance out my window toward Daniel's house. And almost always I see that familiar office light glowing through the upstairs window. But now, instead of wondering why my neighbor never sleeps, I smile. Because I know the truth. Somewhere in the world, another message is arriving. Another person is searching for hope. Another life is being touched. And behind that glowing window is a man who transformed suffering into purpose. A man who proved that even after unimaginable loss, it is still possible to create something meaningful. The neighborhood once saw that light as a mystery. Today, we see it for what it truly is. A beacon, a promise. A reminder that kindness can continue to exist long after tragedy. And every time that light shines in the darkness, it carries the legacy of a woman named Emily, a legacy that refuses to fade away. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable stories about neighbors, hidden secrets, and mysteries that change lives. And before you go, leave a comment below. Which city are you watching from? I love reading your messages and discovering where this incredible community is following us from around the world. Until next time, and remember, the person you know the least about may just be the one with the most extraordinary story of all.